What's up, guys? Zarek, Underdogs of Addiction here. Um, Today's video, I want to allow myself to be as vulnerable and as real as I can about how my father's addiction has affected me throughout my life, and how most recently seeing him addicted to fentanyl and meth, primarily fentanyl blues, has really just affected me. And I'm gonna tell you guys a really personal story that is very hard for me to share, that happened to me recently and changed my life. So I just ask that you guys please stay and watch this video and allow yourself to hear my story, and just really kind of turn your phones off. I mean, not turn your phones off, but watch the video and just focus, because I'm trying to let you guys into what it's like. So I'm coming home from Boise, Idaho. I had just completed another 4.5 months of sober living after checking myself into treatment September 12, 2022. I had completed a total of 11 months in treatment in sober living. I came home and I didn't really know where my dad was. I had heard that he had been in Tacoma. My cousin was telling me that he wasn't doing so well, but I had no idea how bad it really had gotten. So about my second week coming home, I'm driving home from a construction job I helped a friend with, and I'm in downtown Olympia, Washington, where I'm from. And there's an epidemic, obviously, in the Northwest with fentanyl. And I look to my left and I see someone holding a sign. And it was like God was telling me, like, yo, look over there. And amongst my tinted windows and my sunshades, it was like a spiritual connection. I was like, yo, like, that's my dad. But I could not recognize him. Even though I recognized him, if you know what I'm saying. He used to be a big, strong person, and I mean, he probably was 125 pounds. He looked like he was 75 years old, and he's 57 at the time when I saw him. And at first I was in shock. I didn't really feel any emotion. And I was like, no way, so I tell all my friends, and I'm just like, no way, and then about 4 days later, I'm leaving my apartment, and or at least where I was staying at the time, until I got my apartment now, and I see a man with a trash bag on his back, 110 pounds, and just it just did not. And I was like, that's my dad. And I said, hey Pops, is that you? And he was like, son. And then he pulls up in the car, and I look over, and I'm just like, this is the first time. And I hadn't seen my dad in 6 years, and I saw him for one day 6 years ago. But this is before the fentanyl tranquilizers came out, and this is before the death of his own father, which really affected him. And so it had been about 6 years since I'd seen him. 16 years prior to that, I hadn't seen him, so I haven't really seen much of him. And I just was like, once again, those emotions kind of are blocked because of everything. I'm just trying to play the, hey, if you need, what's up, how you been, like, you need help with treatment, blah, blah, blah. And it was very superficial, because I don't think I was ready to take all that in, to see my father withered away like that. Those of you who can relate, you know what I'm talking about. And it just didn't feel right, you know. And I'm just like, part of me is getting mad at God, like, why does my dad have to be like this? Like, and then that actually triggered me. And it triggered me, and I didn't even want to know it, you guys, but it triggered me into a relapse after being sober all that time, being in recovery for over 11 months. And I relapsed. And I remember I had got some money from music, and I was just feeling really depressed. I was just like, man, I went to treatment, I did all this stuff. At the time, I didn't have the great job that I have now, and I saw my dad like that, and I allowed myself to it affected me, and I just was just like, fuck the world, you know. And I just went to the bar, and I started drinking like I used to. And I drank shots of tequila. Next thing you know, I'm calling a drug dealer. Next thing you know, I'm in a full binge. And this was, I believe, the last binge I went on. It was really dark, and I didn't even tell a lot of my family and friends about this relapse because I was so ashamed, and I didn't want to tell everyone like the pain I was feeling, because a lot of my trauma comes from my relationship with my father. And I'll get into that later, but basically, you know, I got really fucked up, and my dad was like living out of a church that was ironically right next to the place I was staying at. And I'm walking back, and I bought a pack of cigarettes, and I'm just all fucked up. I got cocaine in my right hand pocket. And I just see my dad, and I'm all messed up, and I'm numb, you know, and I'm like, hey dad, what's up? But in the back of my head, I'm like, look at me. I'm all drunk. I'm high on coke. My dad's fucked up on his drugs, and we're sitting there and we're talking, and he's asking if I could help him with some clothes. So I run into the apartment, and I get a bunch of clothes for him and stuff. And numbing myself out, of course, putting on the mask that everything's okay. And we're just sitting there, and I tell him, hey, I'm going back out, blah, blah, blah. Here's some clothes. If you want, you can sleep in my Jeep tonight. And at that point, I just was like, man, this is so fucked up. Like, what has my life become? Like, look at me and my dad. We're just out here both on our drugs of choice. And I went back to the bar, and I got fucked up. And I went to the karaoke bar, and I kept drinking. And then I run into my dad again that night. And he's not the man he used to be. He's hanging around all these young kids, and like, you know, and I go out there and we chat again, and I just try to play like everything's cool. Meanwhile, inside, I'm really hurting from seeing my dad in this state. And then, you know, I go home. He leaves my truck after he sleeps in there, and I open the door, and it smells like fentanyl, meth. He injects, like, there was like syringes, beer bottle, and I came to, and I was just like, man, what the fuck? And that affected me as well. But I wasn't done. I decided to drink again that night, and I just kept drinking and drinking, and it just got to the point that night that I drank more. I hadn't drank in so long that I couldn't handle it, and I was so drunk that I was like passing out. I was on like a 2-day binge, and I texted my friends, you know, that like, you know, that I didn't want to be alive anymore. And I don't know if I felt the feelings of suicidality, but I didn't want to kill myself. I was just scared, you know, like I was just like hurt from just like where I was. I had done all this work in treatment, and I came home, and I didn't have shit, which is crazy because I have everything I ever wanted now, you know, at least that I could drink as far as like what I wanted. And yeah, so ironically, this person I was staying with, they dragged me back to their house, and I'm just all out of it and drunk, and my dad shows up, and like I get some of the situations mixed up, but this all happened over the course of 2 days. So some of the stuff is out of order, but this is just how I'm remembering it. And we went outside, and like me and my dad were drinking, and I told my dad that I was feeling suicidal, and I don't know, I guess, like my whole life, my dad was caught in his addictions. After the age of 10, he wasn't really around. And when I was younger, there was just a lot of domestic violence and him in and out of jail and a lot of verbal abuse. And he didn't really know how to love himself. He didn't know how to love me. So I never got that. I never got like that validation that I always craved. And my whole life I always just craved like my dad's approval, and like just wanted to have that father-son relationship that we never had, and him and his dad probably never had. It's just like a generational curse. And like, but it was something was so therapeutic to sit there, and even me and my dad were sharing a beer, as fucked up as that is. And something therapeutic just happened, and my dad was like there for me in a weird way. And he was like, "No, son, you don't want to do that. I love you with all my heart. I'm sorry. I wish I could leave you with something." And I said, "All you can leave me with is just, Dad, please just don't give up. Like, just keep trying, And as much as pain and hurt has been in our relationship, it could have been easy just to not give my dad a chance to talk to me and just cut him off like the rest of my family has. But I noticed a change in him as well. I could tell that he's tired and that he's at the end. I don't know how he's still alive. Like he told me, he was like, "I don't know how I'm still alive, son," And I was just like, "Dude, I don't know. Like you're still here after all this abuse." And it was cool to have, like, I've done so much work in treatment about healing that relationship with my father. I read a letter in treatment to all my people in the treatment center, and I was in tears the whole time, and it was from the perspective of myself and as a kid and talking to my dad and just trying, and it was beautiful. And like everyone started crying and people started sharing their stories, so I had really worked through that trauma, but it still hurt to come home and see your dad struggling, and like those childhood dreams of just wanting your dad to be normal. It came back to me, and I didn't want to admit it, but we had that moment, and then we talked, and like I gave him a hug, and it was like, I don't know, like peaceful. And because normally me and my dad would be cool for a while, and then he would say something dumb and I'd flip out on him, and it just never happened. And that was 3 months ago, and I've been sober ever since that relapse. I haven't touched anything. And it was, like to tell my father, that I didn't want to be alive anymore, and to have his support and just be like, "No, son, like I love you. I don't want you. Don't do that." It like healed something in me to know that my dad does care about me. Because my whole childhood, it was like I felt like he didn't care. And like all these promises were broken a lot, And that was just a wild moment. And it's really hard for me to share this on camera, but I'm hoping that just maybe one person who I don't know was a stranger, maybe this like will inspire you to like open yourself up and really be vulnerable so you can heal like I'm doing. And it was just a beautiful moment, and to like finally have peace with my dad and peace inside. And I don't know if he's even alive right now. Any day, any moment, he could be dead. I mean, he's a full-blown fentanyl addict, like bad. He has a cyst on his face from surgery. I mean, they cut it, from the tranquilizer. And he told me, "Son, I don't want to do these drugs anymore. It's not fun." But he's like, "I can't stop." He's like, "I just can't stop." And I said, "It's okay, Pops. Like, I love you. I said, God has a plan for you too." And he said, "The only reason I'm still here, son, is because God had a plan for me." And it was just fucked up because, like, seeing my dad like that, it was like he was very childlike, and he had shrunk. Like, it felt like he shrunk a few inches. He was only 100 pounds. And I could just tell that, deep down, he was just a wounded person. And that doesn't change the violence and the neglect and the abuse that he did, but at least I understand it, and I was able to forgive him, but that wasn't the last time I saw him. Like I didn't see him for a week, and then I saw him again, and I had he had like stored like these like a homeless mat and stuff, and I had a bag full of stuff for him, and I left it outside of the car for him, and unfortunately, like, it rained, and I walked outside, and he was outside, and I said, Dad, I was like, I can't have you keep coming around here. I can't save you. Like, I can help you go into treatment if you want, but like, I just can't do this, and like, he was like, it's all good, son. I just want to end things on a good note. And it was just like really fucked up, man. Like, and you see I gave him a hug, and he was like, I love you with all my heart, son. And he's just walking off, with a homeless, his homeless little kit, a little blanket and soaking wet blanket, and a pad to sleep on. And I'm just like, man, bro, it's just like, fuck, but I was like, your dad always said, son, don't be like me. And I have a firsthand example of how bad this shit can get. My dad, he's still down. Like, I'd seen him down like that, and like that was his reality, is that he's walking away from his son's apartment, and, with trash bags of stuff. And like, I told myself after that weekend, I'll do everything I can to stay sober and to help any other person struggling with an addiction, and help any other person out there that's struggling and having people who are not addicted to fentanyl but struggling watching their family members. Because some reason my dad's still alive. He's alive, but his sister, my aunt, died from a fentanyl overdose 10 years prior, and that really messed him up. And in another video, I'd kind of tell deeper into that story, but I don't want to get into that. Fentanyl is drug addiction in general has plagued my family. One aunt lost, two of my aunts dead, one from cirrhosis and the other from fentanyl overdose. And I was just glad I can share this story with you guys, and I hope somebody can relate. And I just wanted to share that everything I've went through this last couple years in my recovery. I lived in 3 different states, graduated 2 different treatment centers, 2 different sober livings. I did everything I could because I hit my own personal rock bottom, and I was scared. I didn't want to end up like how my father was. And I saw firsthand when I came home that what exactly it looks like at the end. And I sat there, and I remember I told my dad, I said, addiction starts in pain and ends in pain. And he was like, damn, son. He's like, yes, that's exactly right. And I'm putting it in God's hands. I'm putting everything in God's hands. I know that my purpose right now is to help other people whatever way I can, through whatever means I can. And I haven't seen or spoke to my dad since then. I don't know how he's doing. But I know that there is a lot of healing that took place, and I thank God. I thank Jesus for that. I know some of you guys don't believe in that, but whatever you believe in, there is a higher power. There's something out there. There's a source that, I swear, everything that's happened to me in this last 2 years is exactly how it's supposed to be. Even my relapse 3 months ago, and to experience being high and drunk in front of my father. I mean, there was some serious healing that took place, and I'm not fucking ashamed. I'm not ashamed to say that I've relapsed. It's part of the fucking process. No shame. I learned from it. We keep fucking rolling. We keep fighting. Underdogs of addiction. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't fucking give up, and we keep moving, and we keep going no matter what happens. And I hope that you guys carry that on. That's it for today's video. I love you guys. Thank you guys for staying and watching and listening to my story. And please tell me about your story in the comments below. Thank you.